So, good afternoon, everyone, and thanks for taking the time today to join this next in our series of short webinars. I'm Tommy and I look after partnerships here at Vidatec, and I'm joined by Nick, our CTO. Just quickly point out that the webinar today is on listen only mode. So, if you do have any questions or comments, please just fire them into the chat. So the plan is to explore how mobile apps are reshaping the hospitality experience. We'll talk about what's holding many businesses back and how modern, flexible platforms can deliver a smooth, more personal experience that keeps guests coming back. Thanks for those who submitted questions in advance. We'll do our best to answer those during the session. If we don't, we'll follow up after the session and make sure that all of them have been addressed. My slide on. There we go. Before we jump into that, I wanted to take a minute just to introduce Vidatec to those of you who are maybe meeting us for the first time. So we're a purpose-driven business. It's important to us that the clients we work with and the solutions that we design and deliver are about using technology to improve the human experience. And that makes life better for others, and that's what drives us on. That's also reflected in the people we're proud to work with. We are happy to work with a global multinational or a quirky startup to help them get funding. As long as they're using technology for good, then we are happy to partner with them. So let's dive in. Let's start with the big picture. Mobile now drives more than half of all hotel bookings, and that number keeps rising. But too often guests move from a slick booking experience to outdated systems, clunky apps, or disconnected communication once they arrive. This mismatch creates frustration, mixed up sales, and ultimately lost loyalty. And that's what we're here to talk about. Guest expectations have shifted dramatically. 61% of consumers say they'll pay more for a personalised experience, yet only around a quarter of hotel interactions can actually deliver it. That gap represents a massive opportunity. People are no longer comparing your app to another hotel. They're comparing it to the experiences they receive from Amazon, Netflix, or Uber. When hotels get personalisation right, the profit can be huge, the payoff can be huge, sorry. 68% of travellers stay loyal to brands that tailor experiences to them. Loyalty members account for about 40% of room revenue and spend almost 50% more than other guests. This tells us that personalisation isn't a luxury feature anymore. It's what drives repeat business and brand advocacy. Unfortunately, too many guest journeys still break down because of legacy systems. Think of that guest. We've probably been that guest who's had to call reception to book breakfast or can't change a spa appointment in the app. These small frictions all add up. Every one is a lost opportunity to convert, delight, or upsell. It's something that often gets overlooked, the hidden cost of outdated digital channels. When we think about technology and hospitality, we tend to focus on the obvious costs like license fees, support contracts, IT spend, but the real costs are invisible. They show up in guest frustration, staff inefficiency, and lost loyalty. That means that many hotels still rely on older booking engines that don't talk to their CRM systems. Guests might book online, but then have to call or email to make changes. Staff then have to manually update multiple systems, and that's time that could be spent improving the guest experience. Research has shown that 45% of hoteliers have said that self-check-in technology allowed them to operate with fewer staff, yet only 40% felt that their technology investment actually gave them a competitive edge. That gap tells us something important. Hotels have invested in tech, but not necessarily in the right tech. Legacy systems create friction, they don't integrate, they slow teams down, and they make it harder to deliver the kind of personalised experience today's guests expect. That results in longer queues at reception, inconsistent data, missed upsells, and ultimately guests who decide not to return, or even worse, are motivated to write a review and tell others. So when we talk about modernising, it's not just about saving money or keeping up with trends. It's about reclaiming that lost value and giving both your guests and your teams a better experience. Imagine this instead. A guest opens your app before they arrive. They check in on their phone. They get a digital key. They receive a personalised welcome offer. Everything just works. It feels smooth, natural, and effortless. That's the standard that modern guests expect, and it's absolutely achievable. Modern mobile platforms make this kind of experience possible. They let you integrate with digital key platforms, real-time local recommendations, in-stay messaging, personalised upsells, all while keeping everything synced to your CRM and other systems that capture those valuable data points for future use. In other words, they're making the guest feel known and valued. So who's doing it right? Let's look at some real world examples of who's doing it and doing it well. Our partner Crystal Ski, they've invested in their mobile app to simplify booking and provide tailored travel information and personalised offers. Engagement and satisfaction CSAT measures went up immediately. Virgin Voyages, they use AI for marketing segmentation, easy to say, so that in-app guests can feel like their experiences are curated. The introduction of their AI customer service agent, Email Ellie, provides immediate and contextually helpful guest support, and it can now answer more than 60% of queries without live agent assistance. Hilton are pioneers. Their apps now combine check-in, digital keys, tailored offers, and personalised stay experiences. These are no longer gimmicks, they're part of a complete loyalty strategy, and they're seeing 15 to 20% increases in upsell related revenue from serving personalised offers via Hilton Honours. So to talk about how tech can support these aspirations, I'm going to pass to our CTO Nick.
Sorry. So obviously we're talking a lot around mobile opportunities, but I think another factor that we need to include in here, and we've touched it with the example of Virgin Voyages, is the potential role for AI engagement through mobile experiences. It was a really interesting study from an ABTA study in July of this year. It was a refresh of their 2024 study, and it's showing an increase in particular demographics use of AI tools when they're planning a holiday or a trip abroad. Interesting just to see that we've got growth of twice as many respondents now using AI as part of that holiday booking experience. As much as 18% of 25 to 35-year-olds using those tools. It makes an interesting point in terms of people's journeys and engagement with your brand or with your website, with your marketing collateral, may now be disintermediated by AI chat tools and assistants. So yeah, it puts a different spin on how we might engage with different customers and different demographics. One of the things we want to talk about is the opportunities there. So for us, it's very much, considering your customers using those non-traditional routes to access your content, your website, your marketing collateral. The mobile app could be a unique opportunity there. So if that journey is disintermediated by a third party, maybe a chat AI platform, how could you harness that? How could you make that accessible and usable through a mobile journey? Give the customer that kind of access that they're used to having, maybe in their sort of the private world, and make that a part of your brand experience on mobile. One of the ways you can do that is looking at your marketing collateral, your materials, your website content, and making sure, is that mobile friendly? Is that data AI comprehensible? Is that something that we can leverage and deliver that kind of experience? Other things I think as well in this space, opportunities around integration and blending of the physical and the digital world. So very much looking at Internet of Things and integrating the booking journeys more seamlessly into the mobile guest experience. We see a lot of e-commerce now being driven predominantly by mobile journeys. So how can we build that kind of thinking in? How can we deliver those bolt-on services as part of the booking experience? I think also looking at the ability of those tools to drive engagement and build excitement as well through personalization. So if you know a little bit about your customer in terms of their profile, you can absolutely tailor that experience in terms of the offers that are made to them, the type of destinations or the type of holiday experience they might have. But even right down to tone of voice could be customized in terms of the way an AI agent might be able to engage with that user and support them in making that booking. Obviously, we talked a little bit about the cross-sell and the upsell opportunities as part of any app strategy. I think increasingly looking at using APIs to leverage data from across your digital estate and being able to offer. I think one of the great things about mobile is we talk about content and context. So if you've got somebody in the right moment, maybe they're actually already on their holiday, they're servicing their holiday experience through the app. How can we cross-sell upgrades? How can we build bolt-ins? Is that a booking journey for a restaurant? Is that a spa upgrade? Is that entertainment or booking a crash for the kids? All these are options that can be enabled through third-party integrations. Next slide, please, Tommy. I'm going to talk a little bit of the technology challenges. So we've got a bit of a top 10 here. I think use of legacy systems, we've touched on this. This is a key challenge. How can we basically leverage these? How can we make these work for us? I think a number of ways. We talked about API connectivity. Often data is siloed on these platforms, but when we're doing mobile app design, frequently we are mashing up data sources from different platforms to create a unified experience. And that's no different to your Coca-Colas, your Apples of the world. Absolutely, they are building data-driven mobile app solutions. So I think if we can look at how we unlock that silo data, we'll get a lot of value. We talked about, again, lack of connected platforms, siloed data. I think very much when we work with a client, one of the parts we do in any mobile planning is we look at doing a bit of a data audit and saying, okay, what content do we have? So a lot of our clients use ERP systems, for example. How can we look at some of the proof points around customer experience or customer behavior? And how can we knowingly build the app with that in mind so that we can actually service that using some of the data within that? And also creating a bit of a feedback loop so that we're actually learning in terms of customer behavior. We're able to track mission accomplished objectives. Data security, GDPR, and privacy. Obviously, these are foremost in everyone's mind in terms of how can we protect the customer ultimately. I think having strong data governance between your use of the customer's data, really being open and clear about how that data is used. I think particularly when we open up things like the potential for AI engagement through a mobile app, how can we give the customer confidence about how their data is being used? And I think that's through both transparency, but also making steps to safeguard that data with systems that are compliant with that legislation. Technology implementation costs. This is interesting. So we have a couple of approaches to this because people often think that developing a solution in the mobile space is going to be expensive. But we work with a technology, React Native, which enables us to develop for both iOS and Android with a single build. So that means you're not trying to develop in parallel on two different platforms. You always have feature parity, and you can have roughly a sort of 40% cost saving versus creating native iOS or Android apps. Also, I think AI has been democratized there in that space, so that's something that we can leverage at a much shallower price point versus even a couple of years ago. Employee adoption and training. Again, when we're looking at any digital rollout, one of the things we like to do is spend a bit of a day in the life with the customer service teams that will be using these platforms, because there are often opportunities in terms of integrating that with back office systems as well. So what do we need to do to support adoption? How can we make sure that people are on the front foot and actually using those systems and embedding them into the ways they work? We talked about integration with third-party partners. So again, a lot of that is API opportunities, creating experiences that are potentially drawing from multiple platforms and multiple data sources. We talked about data quality. So again, looking at basically the data structure that you have, your website, your campaigns, your marketing collateral, looking at how we can optimize that, make that work across a range of different channels. So again, that mobile journey, and again, AI capability, so that it is comprehensible. We also do an exercise where we look at the customer journey. So we'll map all those customer touch points across your digital estate, with the goal being very much, how do we ensure that we don't have what I would say just a dead end in terms of service design, and how can we make sure that we've got consistent data points around analytics and KPIs and success measures. Limited real-time decision making. This can be a barrier. Again, how can we design KPIs with that in mind? How do we make sure that we're getting analytics? So, for example, if a customer's in resort, how do we ensure that we offer them the right deal at the right time to maybe go and book that spa treatment, or they're booking a restaurant? Is there a cadence? Can we track that and make decisions that enable us to realize better revenue and better customer outcomes? And then finally, AI and data expertise. We talked about this, how can we leverage marketing collateral more effectively? How can we leverage materials in terms of AI through mobile? And I think, again, just doing that bit of that data audit and expertise. Having that expertise in-house is often a barrier because it means investing in data science teams, but that's a service that we can provide and help customers demystify that and work in a way that's collaborative, so that there are some learnings there for both sides. We've had a little bit of a stab at outlining what we see as the technology roadmap when you're building out your mobile solutions. So I think for us, this sort of 6-step process, so assessing your audience and their needs, looking at, building that strong data foundation. So how can we support the customer in terms of, making data about their holiday experience available through the mobile app solution? Equally, for those APIs and capabilities that unlock data, make it accessible. Is that resort information? Is that booking information? Is that upsell or products that they can take advantage of? Again, identifying opportunities for personalization of that guest experience, that warm, fuzzy feeling, which is massively important in terms of that brand loyalty of the brand and that connection. For us, very much, we would advocate strongly for an MVP or minimum viable product. We don't believe in putting a massive big bang release out there in the wild. So very much a test and learn, allowing you to experiment and scale with your mobile app, looking at what's working from analytics and customer behavior, and then refining that and that final step. So assessing, optimizing, and continually refining the app solution based on how your customers are using it in the real world. A couple of common pitfalls we would say here: obviously start small, small scale, implement a solution. You can always build on that, look at the successes, look what's working. Don't overinvest in a feature until you've seen that feedback in terms of actual use. Don't overlook data hygiene, privacy, or operational alignment across the business. So solutions that will leverage logistics or back office planning or purchasing, that's great, but are people in alignment in terms of how that gets used? And for us, very much a process of, technology teams working seamlessly in harmony with the rest of the business and making sure that, everyone's involved with the direction of the project and has a say in that. Just a couple of final points around proving ROI. So tracking adoption, conversion, and loyalty levels. App users showing higher satisfaction and repeat stays, driving measurable revenue gains. I think it sounds obvious, but obviously the more we can drive engagement with the app, the more opportunities people have, the more chance of somebody coming in, discovering something that's going to resonate with them and being able to increase their spend, or be able to take advantage of that service or have an enriched experience for their holiday. For us, again, a bit of an action plan if you're looking at implementing this in terms of mobile strategy. So make mobile personalization simple and scalable. So it would be great to be able to tailor the experience to the nth degree, but very much, I think, small things like tone of voice or identifying content that's relevant for that customer has a much bigger effect. And as you'll probably know from your direct marketing campaigns, we don't have to reinvent the wheel in terms of what's possible. Considering that mobile web and that disintermediated customer journey now, which is increasingly a factor for different demographics, and how can you leverage marketing collateral across all the different channels and be mindful of where mobile has a strength in that space. Replacing legacy systems in phases. I don't think anyone would advocate for massive digital transformation of expensive back office systems, but looking at, again, at APIs, can we selectively create a capability, or can we, by use of unlocking data from multiple platforms, maybe retire one or two that are less essential? I think, again, building that experience that turns your guest into an advocate. We talk a lot about in the moment opportunities of mobile. So being aware of the context of that user, what content is relevant to them at that moment. So when somebody opens your app, the first day of their holiday, they've just woken up, they've flown out abroad, maybe having their coffee, planning their day. What is the thing that can hit them in that moment and give them a great experience, but equally an opportunity to be able to upsell or cross sell.
Brilliant. Nice one, Nick. Thanks for that. So now it's over to the Q&A. So sorry, Nick, you're back in the hot seat in terms of the questions. So a couple of questions that we've got came in. The first one's quite a good one. What do you see as a good example of bad digital journeys? As in who's trying but not getting it right?
Yeah. So there's a couple here. So specifically, airlines, I think, could do with looking at their service design. So we've seen a couple of clunky journeys, some mediated by AI chat support bots, where after you've checked in, it's impossible to then subsequently add luggage. So that's an example of something where somebody's tried to use a technological solution by putting an AI bot in the middle, but it can't recognize that and can't actually be able to support the customer to achieve their outcome. I think also we've seen examples of broken integrations on apps, and obviously APIs can be helpful, but equally maintaining those service integrations are key. So if a customer can't book the spa treatment, or there's no feedback loop if they need to move the appointment. So I think very much comes down to service design, thinking of the unhappy path. How do we support a customer, make sure that it's not a rigid system in place?
Cool. Um, How do you, so we talked about the businesses saying about how they had invested in self-check-in, etc., but many of them thinking that they've kind of lost their competitive edge because of that. How do you think we balance the physical and human element alongside the digital experience?
Yeah, it's interesting. That's tricky because obviously the temptation would be to do a lot of innovation in that space and build out integrations. Internet of Things offers a wealth of possibilities for Bluetooth beacons, or knowing where the customer is at any one point for that guest experience piece. I think I would look for inspiration from some of the successful consumer brands that are implementing this well. So, Nike Store in London is a very good example of this, where you can digitally engage with the product. Everything's behind the scenes. The staff will bring out to you that almost like a concierge experience. They'll bring out the shoes or the kit, and you can try it. And it creates it much more of a experimental and exploration of the brand and the experience. Apple are great at this. When you show up, you book an appointment. That could be to pick up kit or get technical support. They know you. They greet you at the door. They know your name. If you've got a kit order, they've already got it boxed up and ready for you. That whole experience is mediated through their mobile app delivering their website experience. So again, massive opportunity, but as they have your GPS coordinates, they know when you're close by. So that's just a really good example of a combination of different technologies being brought together to deliver that seamless experience. And I think, being able to replicate that even on small scale across the travel, tourism, and leisure industry is a massive opportunity.
Definitely. Um, do you think there's more that can be done, or do you think there's more that some brands can do to personalise the communication that they give to customers or their customers? I'm just thinking from personal experience here, thinking I'm a bit of a traveller now and again. I do like a holiday and stuff like that. However, I would, if I was traveling for business and if I was traveling for holiday, I'm using the same app. How,
Yeah.
what can brands do better to segment that?
Yeah, I think that comes down to intent. So, most of us will have played with direct marketing campaigns and looked at, tailored communications in terms of email going to customers and tailored offers. I think that the beauty of a mobile app, if you have that deeper integration, you start to be able to build a bit more of a detailed picture about your customers' likes and dislikes, and you can be a bit more playful with that. I think, I always look at TUI. I have fun if I go on a TUI holiday. I'll get the promotional offer straight in my inbox on the last day of my holiday. But what can they learn about me through how I've engaged with the mobile app, the restaurant I booked? Could they target me with a memory from last year and say, "Do you want to go back?" That opportunity to go to that great restaurant, or relax in that same spa, or when you think about your holiday, what enticements can they offer me? I think that's just really interesting because a mobile app gives you maybe uniquer insights in terms of how somebody's actually engaging with the holiday.
Yeah,
So yeah, more tailored. I think equally tone of voice as well. We talked a little bit about AI and personalization. So if you're building an AI chatbot or an assistant, you have the potential to tailor that tone of voice and give that bot a persona. So you could, if you know enough about your customer, very much be able to be playful or supportive or helpful or emotional. So there's a number of ways that we could offer a tailored experience to be able to, uniquely connect with that customer and give them a memorable experience.
Yeah, I agree. So I don't want to be staying in the Hilton in Manchester with Ross, my boss, and get an invite to go to the spa. I've got this image of us lying there with our robes on and cucumbers over our eyes. Uh, um, so is there an off-the-shelf experience or opportunity for businesses to buy, or do you think there's a level of um, buy versus build here for businesses that want to get this personalization on an app right?
Yeah, I think this is an interesting one because much like the website world, there are off-the-shelf solutions, CMS platforms that will create you a mobile app journey, and some of them will have integrations depending on their maturity. I think that gets you a long way there. It maybe gets you 60% of the way there in terms of being able to build that customer or the guest experience. I think where things really start to come into that level of high-end brand customer expectation is when you deliver a bit more of an enhanced service around third-party data. So some of those Apple experiences we've talked about
Yeah.
that are very personally orientated towards the customer, very customer-centric. I think, leveraging data, we do this a lot for mobile app builds, and it's about mashing up the best of what data is available across different platforms, creating something that's uniquely tailored and
Yeah.
feels seamless. And I think the seamless nature of that maybe isn't quite there in some of the off-the-shelf platforms because they're trying to cover a wider range of experiences. But yeah, I think that it's that specialization that really leaves the mark with the customer.
Yeah. I think it's also really important to call out that although we've talked about like hotel brands and travelers, I think these experiences that we've talked about and the personalization, etc., are just as important for any kind of leisure experience, whether it be hotel chains or leisure experiences. I think all of the statistics and the same rules apply, really. Would you agree?
That's definitely a point. So I think, particularly if you think of maybe some day venues that have sort of different footfall and trends, the mobile app gives you a tool to be able to look at how your customers are engaging with that site in real time. You can look at, traffic queues, physical interactions with devices if they're internet enabled. So a lot of data you can actually get, which enables you to better service that customer and learn from them, and then be able to offer them on-site offers and promotions at the right point in their day. So yeah, I think it directly applicable, maybe even more so in terms of the physical interactions.
Brilliant. Thanks for that, Nick. Great answers. That's kind of bringing us to the end of our webinar, pretty much bang on time. So if you're interested in discussing further anything that we've went through today, there's a QR code there where you can link right to our page. And then we can have a chat about what we talked about in terms of the mobile discovery workshop that we can run with you. Or we also offer our kind of off-the-shelf AI readiness assessment as well, to basically see how ready your business is, and offer you a roadmap for success if you want to address some of your use cases with AI. So that's about us. Thank you so much for joining us and your participation in questions. If you've got any other questions for Nick and I, please get in touch. Or if you'd like a link to the recording or a copy of the slides, then please let me know. And thanks again, and hopefully see you next month for the next in our webinar series. Thanks very much, everyone.
Thank you all very much.